So George Jaboki is going to present on seabirds are not canaries, but the ocean has become a coal mine.
Thanks. Is my screen visible there? Great. Okay.
Looks
good.
Great.
Thanks very much. This is a more of a thought piece than a data-driven piece. A few days ago, I gave a talk on 50 years of looking at black guillemots up in Arctic Alaska. And this is a talk mainly about looking at seabird biologists and seabird biology and PSG for the past 50 years. People frequently, when they're talking about seabirds and looking at things that are happening to them, say that seabirds are the canary in the coal mine, meaning that they are giving an advance warning of something. And this this starts because, this is a phrase that comes from the fact that coal miners used to take canaries into coal mines. And actually, I had no idea that it was something that was required of them in the UK and was required up until the 1990s, because canaries could respond to toxic gases faster than the humans, and gave them a warning of the fact that they should either not go deeper into the mine or should leave the area where they are. I found it interesting that in the 1990s, a toxic gas sensor could be used, saving a lot of canaries' lives, but also leaving them unemployed. You will see, if you do a search on seabirds and canaries in the coal mine, many places where it's been mentioned in the media to give the public an idea of the fact that, yes, something is happening to a bird, that the system may be in trouble, and that maybe people should pay attention. What I would like to point out today is that it probably isn't that appropriate for seabird biologists to be using it in the context of talking about their work, because for a number of reasons, which I will tell you why. So there are three main points I want to make. Seabirds are not the canaries, but the ocean is a coal mine. And I think that's where this, even this misuse of the analogy is useful, because it makes you think about, okay, what is actually going on in the oceans? So I'll talk about why the canary in the coal mine is almost never a good analogy, why it shouldn't be used to describe seabirds responding to stressors, and why a better and more informative analogy is seeing the ocean as a coal mine, and what this means for PSG and for seabird biologists. So reasons to avoid this analogy or metaphor, if you will, is that it is overused. It's now used to refer to anything that provides advanced information of any kind. It deals with stocks. It deals with like any sort of thing that may be the first thing to respond to some sort of stress or change in a system. And it's gotten to be trite. It is intellectually lazy, as it substitutes a trite homily in place of a detailed explanation. And I think that if a seabird biologist is talking about what their seabird is going through, or what their study species is going through, they should probably be more specific about what the stressor is and what is going on, as opposed to like falling back on this term, which will then be repeated by other people. Say, oh, by the way, thus and such is a canary in the coal mine. And it is inaccurate in that the canary was not a component of the system that was being perturbed, but was brought in to provide a warning, and there was essentially no concern for its well-being. There is a very nice, but rather long post on a grammar site that actually talks about the fact that why this is not a good analogy, in that canaries were small, innocent, and were not prophetic until they were put into the mine. And the few writers take pains to make the metaphor perfectly logical, though most so-called canaries in coal mines are just things that should be considered alarming. And I think that is the thing that seabird biologists are falling back on, is they're saying, oh, by the way, this is an alarming finding, and people need to be more concerned with it than just some of the general trends that I might be finding in my work. So why seabirds are not canaries in coal mine? seabirds can respond to a range of ways to variations in the ecosystems to which they're adapted. And if one sees these, if someone studies birds long enough, you see these things and you don't know what it is that you're actually seeing, if it is something that's dangerous or it's just part of the natural variation of that system. That the loss of seabirds or the impacts on them is not a trivial matter. A canary in a coal mine was a trivial matter. It was something that you could say, okay, they are expendable and that something might happen to them, but at least we got the warning. Something happening to seabirds is more than just a warning. It is something that indicates damage or something happening to a system that you want to deal with. Canaries in mines typically had a binary immediate response, life or death, to a very specific stressor, which was toxic gas. That is unlike what we are seeing in seabirds, in that if you're studying seabirds, if you're trying to assess the status of a canary in a coal mine, you do not have to have a large sample size, 2 or more field seasons at an isolated location. You don't have to attach data loggers, have major data processing and analysis to ascertain the probability that the canary was actually dead. Once the status of that canary was known, and especially if it was dead, the information was provided to individuals in charge who would take immediate action due to the importance of the findings. So, and this is just to say that back when they were looking at these canaries in coal mines, I don't think that they were thinking about publishing a paper in 2 or 3 years, and that people who might have been involved were wondering if they might be co-authors or not. So then to go on to why is the ocean a mine? Mining is a process of extracting things from the earth, and humans are actively extracting ocean resources. I don't probably have to tell any of the people who are currently looking or will see this online that fisheries have been greatly exploited even certainly during my lifetime and during PSG's lifetime, and that this is a major mining of the ocean for fish. The ocean is also being mined for oil and gas extraction, with offshore production accounting for 30% of the total oil production and half of the natural gas, and that these field emissions from this are having major impacts on the ocean, in that the atmospheric warming is being absorbed by the ocean, so that the mine is then being impacted by that mining. These fossil fuels are causing CO2 levels in the atmosphere to rise to the point where Arctic sea ice is rapidly melting and will probably disappear in the next 10 to 20 years in terms of a midsummer blue ocean event. So, and also those CO2 gases are being absorbed to make carbonic acid in the ocean. So we have fossil fuel emissions making the ocean much more acidic at the same time. So all of these mining activities are also impacting the thing that's being mined. And deep sea mining is still is still just in its infancy, but apparently is going to be getting worse or better depending on whether you're making money from it or not. And plastics, the current thing that many seabird people are dealing with, are a product of the fossil fuel industry. So therefore, that is something else that the mining that is going on is impacting seabirds. So my view of this is that I started as one of the miners. I was on this island in 1972 on Cooper Island, where I found a black guillemot colony. And I was there because they needed to find out what would happen if supertankers were to take Prudhoe Bay oil out through the Bering Strait. I then happened to go back and study the black guillemot colony on that same island, and I saw the impact of the fossil fuel emissions over the period of time that has now reduced the colony to a near quasi-extinction level. So like basically, I was part of the problem in that I was helping agencies and industry mine for fossil fuels. And my going back to Cooper in 75 through 81 was part of the Outer Continental Shelf program that looked like they were going to be doing offshore drilling. PSG was formed by marine ornithologists who were concerned about the tanker traffic coming from Prince William Sound to West Coast ports, and that there was a shift in PSG in the mid-70s as oil and gas exploration got to be more of an issue, so that there was a major increase in membership, but most of these members were coming in to basically facilitate oil and gas exploration by doing pre-development seabird studies. So that symposium at PSG meetings frequently, I mean, certainly starting in the 70s and even now, are typically dominated by the most highly funded research, and typically are dealing with resource exploitation. We know a great deal about marble murrelets because people want to sell old growth. We found out a great deal about Caspian terns because people wanted to sell salmon. And so much of the agenda of PSG has been driven by the fact that the people who are being paid to study seabirds are those most likely to come to PSG meetings. So I have a request for current and future PSG officers. You should attempt to increase the diversity and inclusiveness in PSG membership, meaning content and online postings. You should let new members see that PSG is interested in a range of seabird issues and not just agency or industry agendas, and never suppress meeting or online content based on what you personally feel is appropriate, as has been done a number of times in the past, and I believe is still being done to a great extent. And you should also realize that a big meeting may not be a good sign. It just means more and more people are being paid to study seabirds, and if that's the case, it's almost certainly means that there is some other resource that needs to be exploited, and somebody needs to hire people to do seabird studies that are tied to that resource exploitation. And if the above cannot be done, I would just think about making PSG a professional society of people who are working for agencies and industries to try to facilitate this exploitation, and being less of a scientific society, and recognize the changes that have taken place in PSG over the past 50 years. So there is hope, and I do appreciate the fact that the people organizing this meeting had that as a theme. I still have hope. I have hope because I know two people, or I've known two people very well, who actually did study canaries in the coal mine. George Wallace, my major professor at Michigan State, was a thrush person who walked around and saw that robins were dying on the Michigan State campus, did his due diligence, didn't program much at all to find this out, and was featured in Silent Spring and helped to deal with the fact that DDT need to be banned. I'm also very happy to know Dan Anderson, someone else who is obsessed with brown pelicans, and 1 year before PSG was formed, they were writing about him in 1971. About the fact that he had found this, and he had to basically tell someone who worked for the state of California that they were wrong, that things were going on with brown pelicans that the state wouldn't understand. So in terms of telling people what they should say, in terms of rather than saying, is your species the canary in the coal mine? And I get asked that a great deal. I would say, and I do say, my study species is responding to the effects of humanity's reliance on fossil fuel and global warming caused by fossil fuel emissions, and that the inability to address this issue will result in major degradation of all of the Earth's ecosystems, including the ones supporting my study species. That informs the person much more than a minor homily, and it also lets people know that, yes, that even though you're taken with your bird, you understand that there are much bigger issues that are driving both your system and all the global ecosystems. So there is always hope, and I found this to be a great thing. It turns out that there were people who actually tried to save the canaries in the coal mine by having an oxygen tank on top of the cage that they were in, and as soon as the canaries started faltering, they then closed the door and started giving it oxygen as they walked back to the surface. So I want to thank those who are also taken with seabirds as much as I am, especially those who are just beginning their involvement. They're going to see major changes in their 50 years of seabird involvement, as I have seen in mine. And I'd like to remind them that that to not forget, if you want to tell people the truth, make them laugh, otherwise they'll kill you.
Thank you so much, George. That was awesome.